Welcome to the Bitcoin Infinity Show, brought to you by Bitbox, Stampseed, the Bitcoin Advisor, and ShopInBit. Go to bitcoininfinity.com for books, merch, and more. Enjoy the conversation.
Obi, welcome for the first time to the Bitcoin Infinity Show.
Well, if it's
We're
infinity,
rebranded.
what is time in infinity? Yeah.
No, it's second time. Great to have you back. And you've had a big launch recently.
Yeah, we have. It's been a wild ride, and the journey's just beginning. So yeah, thank you.
All right, so FediMint launched 2 weeks ago, is it?
Fedi launched.
Fedi launched. Yeah. These terms.
Yeah. FediMint launched. Effectively, FediMint launched nearly 5 years ago. FediMint's a very old technology. The first FediMint transaction where someone used FediMint eCash over Lightning to buy a cup of coffee, which was after a year plus of development, was on I believe it was the 3rd of August 2021. And so we're trying to, like you have Bitcoin Infinity Day, we're suggesting, that was actually Eric, the inventor of FediMint, from Parinelli Police, actually. And so I like to think of that as eCash Coffee Day. Because actually it was like, you actually bought the cup of coffee with eCash. So yeah. But yeah, Fedi finally launched 2 weeks ago.
All right, so I think for those who haven't seen the previous episode with you, if they want to know more about you, we should probably go back to that episode. But I think you're going to have to do the TLDR on what Fedi is for our listeners. Like, that's a good start, I think.
So yeah, and now we can be clear about what Fedi is. And so Fedi is two things. Still, even Fedi is two things. One is the company called Fedi, and the other is this product called Fedi. So if we talk about the product that people have on their phone, Fedi is a community super app. And so it's an app that takes the best of freedom technologies. So it's got Bitcoin functionality in it, Lightning connectivity, obviously FediMint for handling community custody. But it's also got Nostr support and any other freedom technology that's out there that's mature and reliable. We've taken the time to integrate into one simple to use app. So it allows you to have chat. We use Matrix as this federated, decentralized, encrypted chat protocol. It has money with the combination of Lightning, Bitcoin, and FediMint, and more. So it has a built-in web browser inside it, and therefore you can access all of the Bitcoin ecosystem of apps from Bitrefill to Unleash.chat to BTC Maps and beyond, all in one place. So you don't have to have this smorgasbord of cornucopia of different apps and tabs open, one app to use them all. And the app itself, we announced as well, is now source available and will eventually be open source as well. So we're trying to make the best portal into the freedom technology space. So that's Fedi. And then Fedi, the company, builds the Fedi app. And we also have something we call the Fedi Order, which is this selection of incredible people, Fedi Knights, who are on the ground. And you can think of them as like a decentralized Genius Bar. If you've got an iPhone, you have the Genius Bar that goes along with the phone. The reason why the iPhone is so amazing is not just the phone, but it's also the incredible support you can get. If you go to an Apple store and you go to the Genius Bar, they can help you. We have that, but we have that instead of it being in, Fifth Avenue or Oxford Street in London or so on, it's in the capital of Togo or Uganda or Guatemala or so on. On the ground, they will locate communities, they will educate communities, and they will support communities on Bitcoin, on Lightning, on FediMint, on all of these different websites and services that are out there to provide that sort of support that's needed for the communities that are outside of the existing Bitcoin space.
Okay, great. So how does a federation work? Like, well, we need to go into that too. I know. So the first thing you have to do
wherever you custody is where you transact and do and you live and so on, which is why banks try very much when you're young to get you to hold a bank account with them, because they know that most people never leave. And then all other services are provided. So how do you actually custody? For many people, they've had two choices. Either they do everything themselves, and that's the best if you can do it. Just like it's the best to be able to build and fix your own car or house, but not everybody can do that. But that is always the best, because no one's going to love and put as much care in as yourself. The other extreme is to fully outsource it, fully give it to some private party, which is actually what ends up 95% plus people doing. And that's putting their money on a Coinbase or some other centralized service. And the same with communication. They would use some sort of centralized service. They would use a WhatsApp, X.com, a Telegram, WeChat, or so on. They would use some centralized chat. And if you think about it, our lives are communication and money and value. So both those things, most people outsource. Some people take it in-house. If I want to set up a federation, which is to do with the custody of the money, with FediMint is this middle house. I can find within my community a number of trusted parties. We call them guardians. So let's say you found us three plus, your great t-shirt, Greg Foss.
Yeah.
The minimum we suggest is 4 for various esoteric reasons. From a cryptographic security point of view, we suggest 4. But you can have 7. You can keep growing. You could have. We've seen people have seen federations set up with as many as 40 people in them, and it gets slower and slower if it gets beyond that. But technically, you can. It'll create this huge multi-sig, i.e., multiple people have to sign before you do a transaction on chain, and so multi-sigs start to get expensive of a certain size. But let's say us 3 plus Greg, we would each download the FediMint software. We would download the FediMint software onto a machine that we have spare, and we would set up and run it. The setup process part of it will enter the information about the other 3. And we make that very simple. It's a web interface. You point and click, and you get a code, and you share that code with the other parties. Everybody shares the code with each other. Maybe you go into a group chat and paste each other's code. Everybody copies each other's, enters it into our own FediMint, and then they connect to each other and they form a federation. And from then on, as long as you keep that box running, connects to the internet and connected to electricity, the federation for all the 4, the federation are one. But because it's a federation, if one of them, for example, had a power cut or lost their internet or had to change their domain name or something like that, the other 3 will be able to continue and operate. Yep. So you've now created this community custody platform. Now, anyone with the Fedi app or any other app that supports the FediMint protocol, Mutiny, although unfortunately Mutiny is looking to shut down, but there's also WebiMint, and we're hoping that many others will set up FediMint wallets, like there are multiple Lightning wallets in future. Any FediMint wallet, compatible wallet like Fedi, can connect to your federation. When you finish connecting, at the end of setting up, the FediMint server will show a QR code and the string that represents how to connect to your federation. So you could take your Fedi app, or the Mutiny wallet, or WebiMint, or any other FediMint compatible wallet, and you scan that QR code, and you've now connected to that federation. And that federation you can now use it to custody. Yeah. Now, what will happen is, if, for example, someone wants to send money to you, you would, just as if you're using a Bitcoin wallet, let's say it's on chain, you would say, I want to receive, enter the amount, and it'll show a QR code. Someone else who's using a normal Bitcoin wallet will scan that code and send over the Bitcoin main chain money to you. But what's actually happening is you are communicating, your Fedi app is communicating with the federation. Your federation is creating a Bitcoin address for you to send to and sends it back to you for you to display. And then a user, someone else who's using a completely different wallet will send money to that address, actually goes to the federation, and the four of us combined will process that and create eCash, which is like a token representation of the Bitcoin. I think of like in the same way Tether is a token representation of fiat, but this is for Bitcoin, and then the eCash will be sent to you. But the way it's sent is completely privacy preserving. So the guardians have no way of knowing who they are providing that service for, who's receiving the money, and they don't. And at some point when you spend it or someone else spends it, they don't know that they issued you it when it was issued. There's full privacy.
All right, and neither does the sender, I assume. Like the sender doesn't. Well, the sender
just knows that they send Bitcoin to an address. They have no idea who.
How this structure.
If there are, let's say we set this up and we're using it for our families and friends and families and like extended friends and families, and in total there are 40 of us or 50 of us when you take families and friends and uncles and so on. When you send to that address, there's no way to know out of those 40 or 50 people who received it or who requested it.
All right. So a bit about like the guardians and the multisig. That's obviously because you don't want to have a single point of attack for each federation, right?
Single point of failure.
A single point of failure.
The more likely thing is that someone's machine, if you had one machine, the most likely thing that will happen, almost guaranteed, at some point you'll have some sort of power cut or internet cut. Internet cut is probably the most likely. You'll have a glitch on your internet for 30 minutes. If you do, everyone using your federation won't be able to use your system for 30 minutes.
But it's also an attack vector. Like if there's a lot of money in the federation, and so there's an incentive to attack the guardians. Like. Can you be completely sure that the guardians don't know each other's identities and stuff like that? Like I know you think a lot about attack vectors. I'm like, can you go into that a bit?
You can't be completely sure of anything in life. So so the answer to that is automatically no when you ask, can you be completely sure of something? And it depends on also there's an assumption there that that the people don't know each other. Because I think very often there's two types of scenarios. It could be that each party completely doesn't know each other, or the more common scenario will be that you're some community or some group of friends, and within you've decided, of the people who are my friends and family and so on, these four people are the ones who are consistently the most reliable, the most trusted, and so on. They do know each other, and you know who they are, and it's because you know who they are that you're comfortable with them holding. It's that they're the Uncle Jims of the family. It's like, so they're known to be reliable. They're known to be people who care about their friends and family. And that's very often actually what we're seeing is the more common scenario than the ones where people are completely anonymous to each other. But as it matures, we may see the other scenario happen as well.
It's a literal uncle network. I know Uncle Rockstar started the uncle network here on Infinity Day. Like, so
then it's
he start a federation and make the uncle network an actual uncle network.
Yeah. You got three. You got Brother Luke, and so that's four.
Yeah. You're an uncle.
I am an uncle officially now.
I am an uncle as well. So
you are but dubbed by Uncle Rockstar or just an uncle?
No, I mean, I haven't been dubbed.
You are a good candidate. I should suggest that to grant
I'm a reasonable candidate. But I am biologically now an uncle.
Oh, so, congratulations!
Yeah.
Okay, well, so I think we are looking just to dig in more about Fedi and FediMint and. Well, I think so. What does your launch actually mean? Because the app has been in beta for quite a while, right? But what's happened to make it that you can launch?
Yeah, that's a very good question because the app if you just focus on the app from the previous version to the one we went live, there are only a few changes. I can go through what they are, but it didn't really matter. It was more about, did we have enough feedback from enough people on the ground that we thought that the product was stable enough, reliable enough. Behind the scenes, we've done a lot of internal, plus from trusted friends, external security audits of different elements as well. I don't like to publicize it because it's just something we do. We don't think it's something you should promote or saying, hey, look at what we're doing. We just try to build the best that we can. And the really big thing was to just say, a lot of people ask, is Fedi ready? And we wanted to get to a line where we thought it was good enough. But we got to that line. And then we also wanted to have enough proof points in the world. And again, we got to that line. So these things were separate things that were happening. And finally, it was very clear to us that we wanted to make the software ultimately open source. And that was a big call because, we invested, 21 million. We raised 21 million. And normally you go two routes. You raise a little bit and you stay open source and so on, or you raise a lot and you stay closed source. We believe that over time, it's going to be considered, over the coming years, it's going to be considered that you should always go open source, no matter what you're doing. But we're in a transition. 5 years ago, raising this much and going open source would be considered crazy. In 5 years' time, raising this much and not being open source would be considered crazy. And we wanted to be a thought leader in that. So we actually went source available. It's called a business source license. So it means you go source available and you set a date where you must go open source or earlier. And we've set those. So we cannot change that now. We cannot say we're going to, actually we changed our mind. Well, the only thing we can say is that we're going to go open source earlier. That's the only thing we do. Or if we decide to shut down, it's automatically open source as well. That's a sort of dead man's switch as well. Or we decide we're no longer going to develop the software. We've added caveats like that, which are optional, but actually add more restrictions. So no one's going to complain with us going open source earlier. So that happened though, and was agreed and put in place on May the 4th. So May the 4th be review of this year, 2024, just for posterity. We got enough proof points from different markets that we felt that we're onto something here. Does that mean that we finished? No, there's a lot of work to do, but enough to say that the idea of taking all of the best of freedom technologies out there and putting them into one place and one app that's easy to use is something that's compelling to people. And also we had enough to see that the federation model of this sort of really simple to use and privacy preserving multi-sig is also a powerful model. So the model was proven out. And then finally the software, we got to a point where we thought of course we've got years of more development, but it was good enough as well. I think that was the final piece. And we thought, okay, we're ready to go. And we then set a date a few weeks after that. But even when we were getting close to it, we started the process of shooting a video because we just wanted to show, people were wondering what were we doing for the last nearly 2 years. And we wanted to show that as well.
Well, what's a synopsis of the last 2 years? Like the big highlights.
So I always say there's 3 phases in a business. There's initialization of a startup. Initialization, market product fit. In our case, not product market fit. I can go into why. And then growth. And so this phase that was the end was finally, we crossed the line on August the 6th, 2024, was the initialization phase. And so if you think about the analogy of you wanted to have a shop selling designer pet clothing, and you've decided you have this crazy idea, and you have to first fund it, find the people to build it, and then find the place, set up the store, make the clothes, and all open. That's the initialization phase. And then once it's launched, you then start figuring out, okay, people come in, there's initial interest, and then you have this trickle of people coming in. You have to figure out What do they like? What do they not like? What do I have to adjust until it becomes this sort of regular viable business? That's the market product fit phase. And then you start saying, okay, I've got something that's working fully, and then I will repeat it, make more and more and more. I don't know,
widgets,
doggy fashion Excel stores, whatever you want to call it. So the last 2 years was our initialization phase. So we had this amazing product with FediMint. We had this initial set of crazy people with Eric, the inventor of FediMint, Justin, who was also an incredible engineer, who was actually the one who suggested that we make a commercial enterprise, because up until that, both myself and Eric just suggested it would be an open source project. And then myself as well, with my only maybe 6 or 7 months before finally finished selling a Bitcoin exchange, the UK's longest running Bitcoin exchange. And so having that experience of building a company that was profitable and understanding what it meant to build something that custodies a large amount of money for people and provides them services and so on, it's easy to use and all that sort of stuff. And everything around that, customer service, everything around that. So we were there. I had a visit to Oslo Freedom Forum, and that was a catalyst. We did one talk at Bitcoin Miami, and Alex Gladstein saw that. He suggested I go to Oslo Freedom Forum. I went, my mind was blown, and I also realized not only that whenever you're thinking about a business, you have to always think about chicken and the egg, and how do you find your initial market? For eventually, this product is applicable to everybody everywhere. But who's the first use case who has a demand so high that they're going to willing to go through the really buggy early versions and help you stabilize it to the point where it's something that people can click a button and it works everywhere. And I realized that the community of human rights defenders and later on also humanitarian organizations fit that. They had a need. We really cared about that need, and we were concerned. We wanted to help, but we realized that this product could help in combination with the rest of the Bitcoin ecosystem. That's what's quite cool. FediMint is the thing that handles the custody, but you still then need to buy things, sell things, find things, and so on. And that's where the Fedi app also comes into play. But without FediMint as the core to handle the custody, the rest didn't make sense. So there was a start. Then we started, then you had this sort of scene from like the Magnificent Seven or so on, where you're finding your initial team members. So we found Renata Rodriguez. I chased her for like 6 months ago. She should have, got a restraining order for 6 months trying to get her to join. If you look at the initial team, it was just everybody, the whole team is amazing, but it was just trying to find these incredible people. They tended to just immediately understand the value proposition and the market we were trying to help, and were already doing incredibly well in their own careers, but there was something missing for them. And when they saw this, it was like this fulfilled some other need that they had beyond the monetary need. The potential was amazing, but the mission side of it was what helped us bring on this incredible team. So I believe in philosophy, people, process, products. The philosophy was amazing. Who we're helping, the potential is helping people. And in so doing, we're helping Bitcoin. In so doing, we're helping the world. And that's a powerful philosophy and mission. And that attracted this incredible group of people. And if you've got the philosophy and you've got an incredible group of people, they will put in the processes that will lead to the right product. And so I like to take credit, but the reality is I don't do that much on the day-to-day on the ground. It's like, let's say a video, for example. It was quite crazy. I was just to Renata, I want a really powerful launch video, and it should be like the best Apple keynote speech combined with a UNICEF or Save the Children commercial. That's it. That's the whole brief. Yeah. And that whole video, and sometimes it says, you need to go to Madeira, you need to say this, and I just walk up and I say what she says. But the whole elements of it, all of it, was her and her team Mary and marketing and everybody building that over the following X months. And I didn't actually see the video myself until less than a month before we launched it for the first time as a rough draft. And it was just basically perfect. My comments were like, I actually didn't have any significant comments. And that was the same for most of the team and the design of the product. We had this incredible designer, Skylar. I would give a brief, and so Eric's brief was, I just want to be proud, something I should be proud of. And that was it. And I said it just needs to be really simple. And that's the high level. And I might give comments on a little bit here or there, but in general, whenever he gave me it, I would say he always Skylarized it. He just Skylarize it. And he would just come up with something that was great. And I think that was the last 2 years. We had the team, we raised. Again, the choice of investors was really, really key. I was very, very, very sure, especially from my previous experiences, that I only wanted Bitcoin-only investors, especially for the first couple of rounds. And when I sometimes do talks on how to set up a Bitcoin company, my first slide says, don't do it. Sorry, a Bitcoin startup. I say don't do it, but instead set up a Bitcoin business, not a Bitcoin startup. And I explain the difference between the two. But one part is, if you do want to raise capital, be really careful about your choice of investors. The wrong investors will, and they don't mean to, but they will kill your business without meaning to. But the right investors will help you almost guarantee your success. So we were really, really careful about our choice of investors and the initial team, and then the initial team brought on the rest of the team after that. And that's the last 2 years. We set ourselves up very well. I did, being a classic entrepreneur, think it would take 6 months. Took 2 years. So my estimation on that was a little bit off, but the end result I'm really excited about. And now we're off to the races.
Great news, everyone! Bitcoin, the Inverse of Clown World, is out now.
It's the successor to Everything Divided by 21 Million, and it's based on the last 2 years of podcasts that we've done together. So if you like the show, you're going to love the book.
Find the book on bitcoininfinitystore.com or on Amazon.
That's right. We have our own store now, bitcoininfinitystore.com. You can find not just books, but merchandise based on Everything Divided by 21 Million, the Inverse of Clown World. That's bitcoininfinitystore.com.
So check out Bitcoin, the Inverse of Clown World today and buy some other stuff while you're there too.
This show is brought to you by Bitbox, our favorite hardware wallet. It's Swiss engineered and has all the most important security features to keep your Bitcoin safe, while keeping a user experience that even your grandma can use. So visit bitbox.swiss/freedom to learn more, or use code FREEDOM at checkout for 5% off. And remember, it's the Bitbox 02 Bitcoin Only edition. Make sure to get that Bitcoin Only firmware.
Bitbox. And how does, are you monetizing this in any way? How does the app make money?
Yeah,
for the company?
If you use the app, whenever you use the Fedi app, whenever a transaction happens, which would have occurred a fee, so it's a Bitcoin transaction, eCash, or a Lightning transaction, we add on an additional fee, 21 basis points, so 0.21%.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and the good thing is, because we can charge in sats, and I believe actually even fractions of a sat, it's a progressive tax, or fee. So what I mean by that is, if you're sending, let's say $100 through, then you would be charged on $100, 21 cents. But if you're worth of value. But if you're sending through $1, then you'll be charged 0.21 cents. And if you're sending through 10 cents, you'll be charged 0.021 cents. So it'll always be a very small percentage of what you're sending. Now, people might say in certain countries, don't they have mobile money and so on? But the problem is, those mobile money systems have minimum fees. And it might be 1%, which is not, I mean, we're still better, but it's not that bad, say. And it might be, even sometimes at scale, it could be 0.5%, but with a minimum fee of 20 cents. So if you're sending $100, that's okay. But if you're sending $1, that's 20%. And so if you have someone who has a monthly salary of $10 in some of these markets, that 20 cents fee starts becoming quite a significant per transaction hit. So therefore it becomes unaffordable for you to use mobile money. So even though it's prolific above a certain wealth level, and so that leaves many people out in the rain. But because this is progressive, if you're sending 10 cents, the fee will actually go around to zero. I mean, it will be a fee, but you'll see it in sats. But if you were trying to show it in even in local currency, it would basically it'll say about zero, and then you click and you realize it's this small amount of sats.
So, yeah, the big thing that I'm thinking of, if I'm like playing this out in my head, with where this could be in 10 years, like you could run entire virtual nations on a federation, right? If you have the money and the communication, whatever other useful apps.
I think the big thing I think is, I think if you look at the internet, there are large organizations where people use and they're highly centralized. You have a few people who may be wealthy enough to have their own direct connection to the internet, but the majority of people are connected on, I don't know, at this stage, millions of intranets, like household intranets effectively, company intranets, school intranets, and so on, where it's one connection to the internet shared by multiple people. That's actually the majority of people. And it's that middle ground between these huge mega organizations that people are connected to one mainframe with millions of users. I think there are very few of them now, but that was the dominant way at the beginning. It was these huge centralized ways of connecting AOL, CompuServe, and so on. Now they're actually relatively rare, but that was at the beginning. All of the internet was that, a few centralized parties. And I would liken them conceptually in value terms, in value custody terms, versus information custody terms, to a Coinbase's. And also there were a lot of hobbyists who had their own direct ISDN connection to the internet. But now most people connect through these intranets where they get one router, one connection, and they share with everybody in their household. That would be the equivalent of the Uncle Jim federations, or in their school, or in their football club, or in their office. That's probably 95% of people. And I think that this approach of federated model from the size from 5 or 6 people up to 500,000 or 600,000, that range can cover 80-90% of usage.
And can we go back to a little bit of the sort of the basics of how FediMint works in the perspective of someone actually using this thing? So you explained to us last time somewhat how it works, but just for my own sanity check that I got it, something like that. If you are sending eCash within the federation, that all is just direct between two users. There's not even any essentially a record outside of that. No one knows those transactions are even happening. Is that essentially correct?
Yeah. So the federation creates, helps you mint. Technically, I would say mint because actually the user creates their own eCash. But actually, funny enough, they create their own eCash, but it's unstamped, and then they give it to the federation, and they stick it in an envelope, and then they give it to the federation with some carbon copy paper on the inside the envelope as well, and the federation collectively signs. So let's say all 4 people go stamp, and that makes just for simplicity, and then that makes it valid, and then they give back the envelope to the user. The user then opens the envelope with the eCash that they created, just some random piece of data. And they now have this eCash, but the eCash they created now has got the 4 stamps on it. Say if it was the 4 of us, and so anyone else in that federation, any other person who's also connected to the federation, they can just literally directly give them this random set of data. Let's say it's a picture of a fashionable dog, and they can just give it to someone else. But the picture and the person will receive it, and they don't really care what the data says. They just look, are the four stamps on it? Yes. then it means it was stamped by the Federation, which means it's backed by a certain amount of actual Bitcoin. Yeah. So take the full path. Someone deposits some Bitcoin. In return, they also, along with the Bitcoin, send them an envelope, give them an envelope with this random piece of data in it to the Federation. And the Federation receives the Bitcoin. Okay, I've received the Bitcoin. Envelope. Okay, I've received the Bitcoin. I will stamp, and I received one, let's say 10,000 Satoshis. So I'm going to take my 10,000 Satoshi stamp and stamp this envelope with 10,000 Satoshis, pass it around to the other 4. They all stamp the 10,000 Satoshi stamp, and then give that back to the user. User opens the envelope and says, I've got an eCash note with that's been proven that it's been validated by the guardians. So as long as we all trust the guardians are holding that and that they will honor this and redeem, that's it. So now I can pass it to anyone in the Federation. They receive it. They look at this picture of the cute dog, but what they're really looking at is it got the 4 stamps on it, and it's 10,000. So that means I've now received 10,000 token. They can now, at some point in the future, often they do it immediately if they've got an interconnect connection, but they don't have to. They can give it back to the Federation. Federation will receive it, and each one will check their own signature of the guardians. Okay, yep. It's properly signed. Therefore, I'm willing to, and as long with it, they might give them a Bitcoin address to send the money on chain to. So they will receive it. Okay, it's received. It looks good. They will then record that this eCash note has been spent, but they don't know of all the eCash they received which one it was, because each one they received in the first place was in an envelope. So was it the first one they received or the millionth one they received? They have no idea. It could have been received yesterday or a month ago. No way. All they know is I must have stamped it. So it was one of the ones I stamped. And then they will look at the address the person's asking to send the Bitcoin to, and they will take some of the Bitcoin that they're holding in the multi-sig that we're holding between the 4 of us and send it to that address. So that's called redeem versus mint. Now, the user experience from a user, we can get onto Lightning. That's another level of complexity, but it's simple just for Bitcoin and eCash for now. For a user, I open up my app and I want to receive Bitcoin outside. I will give a Bitcoin address. Someone sends me Bitcoin, or I send it to myself from an outside wallet, and I receive eCash. And then someone else in the Federation once I want to pay them some eCash, they will give me a QR code to scan to pay, and I will scan, and literally the eCash that's on my phone gets sent to them directly from me to them one-to-one. That person, when they receive it, could keep it on their phone, or they could say, you know what, I want to send it back to the Federation, and they can send it back to the Federation, and then the Federation can destroy that, issue them new, fresh eCash in different denominations, maybe not 10,000, but 10, 1,000. Just like with notes, you can go and get change. Just like if you go to a post office and ask for change, or they can send it on chain.
Yeah, because if someone transacts, right, if you're saying it gets sent from one computer, phone being a computer, whatever, one device to another, well, that original device would still have a copy of the thing on, right.
So they will still have a copy. Now you are in the same, this is where the community aspect works. You are in the same community. So if you're in the same community and the person, as a merchant, and you receive, and your phone will remember when you received what eCash, even though it's private, you do know this eCash was received at this time and this time and this time. So especially when you integrate with things, points of sale, it will say, well, you received this eCash for this purchase. You'll know that. So then if you go to redeem it, let's say at the end of the day, and some of it doesn't match, you will know as the merchant which eCash was involved in that. You'll say, well, the eCash involved in this transaction, and that transaction was with John. So you've got proof of work. There's also POW. There's also POP, which is proof of punchability. So you can just walk up to them and say, you gave me dud money. It's the same as if you have a merchant and you receive cash and then you finally go at the end of the day to a bank and some of the notes are counterfeit. Now, you don't find high levels of counterfeit notes in a community where people know each other. It's normally in these widespread communities. But in those scenarios, what most people will do and how the default way the app works is the moment you receive it, it immediately goes off, and the moment you receive it, immediately goes off and redeems it and then issues itself back new change.
Yeah, that seems like a good default implementation.
Yeah, but it does. But if you have the beauty of it working that way, if you have no internet connectivity, you can still use it and still receive. Even if you can't send over the internet, you can create a QR code which contains the eCash in the QR code, and the person can literally scan it and receive through the screen. Because as long as it's the QR code, the eCash note is just some text. So a QR code can represent that text. You can scan it even if you have no data. So for example, it could be you're in an area with no data, rural Latin America or so on, but it could also be something more innocuous. You could just be in a big sort of Glastonbury-like concert, and there are 1,000 phones and there's no data, or you're in an indoor conference but it's underground and there's no data, but you can still take payments, or the merchant has internet because they're the ones who really need it, but the buyer doesn't, and so in which case the merchant has internet because they're connected wired in because they're fixed, but the buyer doesn't. The buyer doesn't need to have internet to pay, and the merchant will check, or they'll just take a risk. They'll just take a risk. Just like in most merchants in high streets, they accept a certain amount of breakage, and a certain amount of transactions are going to be charged back by credit card companies and so on. I used to be a CTO for a major pan-European online auction company. At the time, I was competing with eBay and so on. I had 300 people working for me in technology. It was a very big technology offering. And we were doing millions of transactions a week. It was very, very, very high volume. And in those e-commerce sites, you just accept a certain amount of breakage, a certain amount of returns, and a certain amount of chargebacks, even if you do nothing wrong, and you just factor it into your costs for the benefit of the simplicity of the experience.
Yeah, you mentioned Nostr before.
Yes.
Like, what's the marriage between Fedi and Nostr? Like,
well, I would say right now we are
because I
think we're beyond dating. We're engaged, but we want to really take the two-footed tackle of no return, to use a football euphemism.
Yeah. I mean, it's a web of trust thing, right?
I think from the first point I saw Nostr, a lot of people thought it was just social media and so on. I think social media is the Trojan horse is the wrong word, but it's the initial vector by which it infiltrates communities. But what you're actually doing is building a simple trust system and a simple discovery system. It's a form of decentralized search, and it's a form of decentralized identity, because to search, you have to identify things to be able to search. So they're sort of two sides of the same coin. Now, the first thing you're using it for is identifying people who want to speak publicly and share their thoughts and so on and so forth, and follow them and give feedback and like. But it always seemed to me to way more powerful than that. And I think now people generally understand it that way. And so what we've already done in Fedi, and a lot of developers really like the way it works. If you sign to Fedi, or if you download the Fedi app and start using it, you first of all, you don't need to give your email, you don't need to give your phone number, because it's not required. But we do ask you to come up with some sort of username for yourself. That doesn't even have to be unique, by the way. We will add a unique element at the end from it. But what we do is, whenever you create that label, which you can change the name, but we create a an NSEC, which is a Nostr identity, effectively, a unique identity. And we automatically create that for you. So again, for our users, we don't want to start educating them on the history of Austrian economics and Bitcoin and inflation at the beginning, or on Nostr, etc., and how it works and relays. And we just want them to start using it. And then subtly over time, we expose certain features of it so people become curious, and then they eventually want to learn how this thing that's delivering value works. But we put proof of work first, proof of talk second. So we educate through letting people see the benefits. And then some people might say, well, how does this car thing work? Or how does this fridge thing work? But I don't need to know how a refrigerant works to be able to use a fridge, or how microwaves work to use a microwave. I may never want to know, but some people will be inquisitive, and then they'll go to the next stage. And then we're ready with the Fedi Nights to educate them when they want to know how all this stuff works. But we benefit first. So, and that's how it works with Nostr. We immediately give you an NSEC. And so because we've got that, if you go and use unleash.chat, for example, within the app, it will go and you click login, and there's one option, login by Nostr. You click that, and it will just within the app pop up something saying, do you want to log in with Nostr? And you click yes, and you're logged in, and it just works. And then also now you're logged in, and then you click deposit money, and instead of having to go to a different app, copy and paste the QR codes, it pops up and says, this what the app's asking you to deposit this amount of money. Do you want to go ahead? Yes. And then it's eCash is converted into Lightning, and then you pay by Lightning. But from your point of view, is a circling key for 3 or 4 seconds. You'll have now credited your account. Do you want to withdraw the money back account? You click withdraw the amount. 3 or 4 seconds, it's been withdrawn to your account, and it's all within the same app. But that only works because now, if you close the app or delete the mods, because you can delete these mods or these additional pieces of functionality, they're basically web pages, but the icon for them, and they have an app-like experience, but they're actually just web pages. And then you go away, and then you come, and then you delete the app from your service, and then like 6 months later, you come back, you enter your 12 words, you'll relog on, and then if you scan to join a federation again, it will recognize that you were a member of a federation before, and it will reconstitute and recreate all your eCash and put it back on your phone. And then if you click on Unleash Chat or Stacker News or anyone that supports login by Nostr, you'll log in with the same details and so on. So you basically, and we want to make that even more seamless. So from 12 words, your entire life you think about moving from one mobile phone to another, where you have to move all your apps, your banking apps, your chat apps, and now you could do that with just and also try moving from an iPhone to an Android phone, Android to an iPhone. It's a nightmare. Here, you could just download the Fedi app on your iPhone. This is some far point in the future. You don't have just chat, but you also have voice, you have video, all of that running from encrypted chat. You have access to money from and custody and payments. You have access to all these apps, and then you back up 12 words, and there's something we call social backup, which is mind blowing, but that's in beta. But let's just say back up 12 words, and then you delete that app, go to a different phone, could be an Android or an iPhone, and you just enter 12 words, and your entire thing comes back, not partially back, but it all come back based on just those 12 words. And that's only made possible because of Nostr, and we want it over time.
I mean, when you think about it, it's insane. It's already insane with Bitcoins with the 12 magic words, because like every time I pass a security check at an airport, I think that go ahead, have my 200 milliliters of toothpaste. I have my 12 magic words. Like, it's the ultimate fuck you to anyone trying to meddle with your business, right? But now you can simply burn a phone in one country, buy a new phone in another country, and you can have your entire online life.
That's the dream. I mean, we're not fully there, but I would say it's like we're like 90% there. But But to extend beyond just your Bitcoin, Nostr is the protocol that allows us to do that, because it's notes and other stuff, and the other stuff can be an encrypted version of all of the settings and so on that you have that we can store and be willing to pay for. And then when you recover, we can then you have your Bitcoin, but then you can go off and send a request to say, here, I'm willing to recover this file. Here's some zaps for the file, and you get the file back, and that additional file then contains the information. Okay, these are the federations you were a member of. You rejoin them. These are the mods that you had. They're reset up. These are the settings you had. They're reset up. And then you log on them automatically using Nostr as well, the NSEC and Nostr login. But from your point of view as the user, 12 words is back. I mean, you might have to drink a cup of coffee while it's happening, but 5, 10, 20 minutes later, it's back.
It's amazing, and it's an inheritance plan. Like, you can live forever by just letting your descendants, giving them the 12 words when you're on your deathbed. I think
social backup also becomes really powerful, because social backup means that because the 12 words is still another thing to secure, and it's sort of one of these turtles all the way down type scenarios. Okay, we've got all this incredible security, Fort Knox like, but but I walk around the back of the Fort Knox is these 12 words that's stored, on a fridge with a fridge magnet, because you're storing it really securely. Of course, you're not going to store it in a fridge later, but you also give one to your cousin, and you say, look after this as a backup. And your cousin stores it on a fridge magnet. You don't know your security is the lowest common denominator for your 12 words.
Yeah, a chain is never stronger than the weakest link.
And so with social backup, which is definitely an early beta, what we can do is use the power of the federation, where we can take your 12 words, encrypt them, and then split it up between the 4 guardians in this case, or 7 guardians, or 40 guardians, or whatever, for larger federations. And they all hold a piece of your encrypted piece of your
encrypted is
keys.
Important here.
Yeah.
Knut, what are you doing over there?
I'm stamping my seed. Everyone tells me I should, that it's good for Bitcoin security and whatnot, and that I should go balls deep into Bitcoin security. So I'm stamping.
No, you don't do it like that, Knut. You don't stamp that seed. You stamp your seed phrase.
What?
Your seed phrase.
Oh, so that's what these things are for. All of this stuff that they sent me. Like, I get it now.
That's exactly right, Knut. And you can get everything you need to stamp your seed phrase at stampseed.com. And be sure to check out our limited edition, everything divided by 21 million titanium seed plate. And use code Infinity at checkout for 15% off.
That's fantastic. And it hurts way less.
This show is brought to you by the Bitcoin Advisor, your premier destination for professional Bitcoin management.
Yeah, so if you want help with your Bitcoin inheritance planning or anything like that, you can call us or send us a DM, because we're Bitcoin advisors.
Exactly. They've been serving Bitcoin clients since 2016, and they offer a top-notch Bitcoin concierge service, including collaborative custody and estate planning. We're on the Bitcoin Advisor team ourselves because we believe 100% in what they're doing, and we're happy to tell you more about the Bitcoin Advisor on a call.
So check out the bitcoinadvisor.com, or just simply shoot us a DM for some Bitcoin advice. Hey, dear listener, don't forget to like, subscribe, and brush your teeth.
And if you're enjoying the show, the best way you can help us out is spreading the word on your favorite social media platform. Ours is Nostr. The show is going Nostr first, posting the episodes on Nostr 1 day early. And if you'd like to support the show, the easiest way to do that is to send us a zap on Nostr, use a value for value podcasting app to send us a boost, or pick something up from the Bitcoin Infinity store. We appreciate the support.
Yeah, go click like, go click subscribe, and go brush your teeth now.
So this gets me back to what happens when one of the guardians drops off, and if it's like in a permanent way. If that one guardian is holding a piece of everyone else's 12 words, does everyone else's 12 words get lost?
It uses a this is crypto, the way cryptography comes in. So it's not like we've taken your 12 words and split it up free between 4 guardians. Instead, you encrypt it using a scheme that allows each one of the 4 of us to have a cryptographic piece, But as long as any three of us combine our piece together, we can recombine. We can recombine. It's called Shamir's secret sharing scheme, but it's a way of cryptographically achieving that.
Excellent. And well, and I think you mentioned last time as well that if a guardian does go down, essentially you can replace that guardian. And I would can you take us through that, adding or replacing a guardian if that ever were to need to happen?
Replacing a guardian is probably one of the most complex things. And so you wouldn't necessarily replace the guardian, but what you would do is, if someone were to go down, there's two different things: the machine or the guardian, the actual person. So if the machine goes down, you can set up a new machine, and you can recover the status of that. You can download the FediMint software on that new machine. So it's the actual server that's running. And that will then connect to the rest of the federation and carry on. So as long as the guardian has a backup of their keys, they can recover that one machine and catch up. And it will automatically catch up, just like if you turn off a Bitcoin node and turn it on, it will reconnect to the Bitcoin network and catch up. It's a similar concept. So that's if a machine went down. If a machine was temporarily disconnected from the internet or lost power, it would just restart and reconnect, and you will have zero downtime as a user as long as there's free still running and active. This will all be, you'll notice that the performance will still be the same, but if you went into settings for that federation, you'll see that 3 of the 4 are running, so 1 is not running, but that won't affect your usage.
Is the N of M like a ratio, or is it always N-1, for example? Like 3?
It's a ratio. It's the number of guardians that you need to have is dependent on how much redundancy. So if you want to be able to handle one guardian going down, then you'll need to have 1 times by 3 plus 1. So that's 4. So that's why you need 3 or 4. If you want to handle 2 going down, then you need 2 times by 3 plus 1, which is 7. So it's 5 of 7, 7 of 10, 9 of 13, and so on and so forth. You can have more than that, but the time that you get additional redundancy is every 3. But you can have, for example, 4 of 5 if you wanted to. Anyway, so yeah, in the event that someone goes down, that the machine goes down, that you can recover. Recently, there was an issue where one machine, where 2 federations had an issue with the domain name for one of those servers. And so if the domain name for someone is no longer available, you can now, with the update that came out a couple of weeks after that, you can modify the domain name for a Guardian FediMint server, and it will communicate that securely with the other Federation servers, and then reconnect and continue to operate. But it's important to, even in that scenario where the domain name server went down, the Federation itself continued to operate because there was still at least free running. So there was no downtime for the user. Whereas if we hadn't been federated, then for the 1 week or so where that was down, these users would have had no access at all, which would be the case where you're connecting to a centralized or a single server offering. Now, if one of the Guardians, for some reason, the actual people who are running the FediMint server, for some reason, you no longer trusted them. They'd been helpful all their life, and all of a sudden they decided, or they've been turned by some malevolent, nefarious actor. Then if you could, in theory, pass to someone else, but in practice, how do I know that the other person isn't still going to continue to operate it, and so on and so forth? So what you actually want to do is set up a different federation and transfer people the other three guardians and inform people with a different set of 4 people, so those 3 plus someone else, and just tell people to transfer their balances across. But transferring balances across is as easy as doing a Lightning transaction from one server to another. You can, within the Fedi app, be a member of multiple federations at the same time. I mean, right now, I'm a bit of a power user, but I'm a member of, I don't know, over a dozen different federations from around the world. I mean, well over a dozen, I think, yeah. And I'm sure there's even a team with way more than that. But obviously I can't advertise the names because many of them are private federations. So, but there's a few public ones, but there's way more private ones.
So is the eCash, if you're in multiple federations, is it interoperable there, or it's like more like it's a Lightning transaction between those 2 federations, but it's eCash that lives within those federations?
You got it. It's eCash lives within its federation, but the interoperability layer for most people is not on chain. It's for the vast majority of people, it's Lightning. So, but the user experience of sending eCash from one person to another in the same federation, sending eCash from one person to someone else receiving Lightning on a different wallet that's got nothing to do with FediMint, and finally sending eCash from one person in one federation to someone else in another federation over the Lightning network in between is exactly the same. From your point of view, it's QR code scan, and the system will, the combination of the Fedi app and or whatever FediMint compatible app you're using, and FediMint servers will make the experience, it will figure out, in this case, I just need to send the person eCash. In this case, I can send eCash out over Lightning, and that's my job is done. And then the other side will be a Lightning wallet and it will receive. And in this case, I will send eCash over Lightning to another federation, but I don't even know if it's another federation. It's just a Lightning address. And then the other federation receives the transaction, and the other FediMint server receives eCash on the other side. But from a user point of view, this is the thing that also took the 2 years to make the experience the same. You just don't have to worry about which one is doing it. The fees will be slightly different. One won't have a Lightning component to the fee, eCash to eCash. But the other 2 will, because it will be, like in both cases, it will be eCash to Lightning from your point of view.
So is there a fee to send eCash to someone else in the same federation? No, I guess, right?
It depends on the federation. The federation could choose not to charge a fee, and many in these times choose not to because they're doing it for friends and family and so on, and the fees are minimal. But the FediMint protocol does support what we call a DDoS fee. So basically you're spending effort time to issue these notes well, not to issue, but to sign these notes. The issuing is done by the user, but the stamping takes time. You're signing something cryptographically. That's effort. And you're also doing it in a federated manner. So you're coordinating, and then you're all collectively signing. So to avoid DDoS, you can turn on a fee, and by our calculation, it doesn't need to be very large. 1 sat per note that issued is enough to prevent. Because if someone really tried to DDoS you at scale, they could, but on normal sort of consumer laptops or hardware, they'll have to spend, hundreds of thousands a month at that 1 sat per note. And in which case you'll say, fine, you're giving me hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin to burn, to burn my CPU. Well, not to burn it, but just to heat my CPU. So you can charge a fee, and I think some will experiment with charging a DDoS fee, which is similar to Bitcoin. The fees in Bitcoin are a DDoS protection vector, so it's the same concept.
All right. So what's on the roadmap? How does the future look like? What will you be working on the next 5 years, and where do you see FediMint going?
This is the most fun phase. Up until now, we we had a hypothesis and we had some early feedback, but a lot of it was based on a hypothesis and a theory as to what we thought people needed. And we felt that freedom technologies had got to a stage where they were good enough to provide this combined experience. And that was a hypothesis. And we think we've got early validation, but we built that. Now it's live. And now it's the fun, but it's also the scary bit, because we now actually see people using it and we test all the hypotheses. And this is the point where you have to be very detail oriented, very much listening to the users and listening to what they say. And whatever they say, we cannot ignore. If there are parts of our hypothesis that are incorrect, we have to adjust to support that. So it's going to be a lot of listening, and we've already got hundreds of requests for feedback, and then working to rectify or deal with the questions or feedback they've given us or the suggestions they've given us. And we're going to continue iterate, and then we bring it back out to users and see what they think. And we keep in that loop. This is the market product fit loop until the product that we produce fits the requirements of the market. Now, again, I'm hoping that takes 6 months or less, just like I hoped it took 6 months or less to do for the initialization phase. But it might take less, it might take a bit more. But it's fun, and that's the next phase. After that, we then go in the growth phase. Once we know we've got something that's repeatable, that really is sticky, is really at the quality level that users need for it to be used a daily part of their life, we'll then go into growth phase, and that's where we'll really, put our pedal to the metal and just repeat until billions of people are using this around the world. But that's phase 3, and I'm very focused on this phase. You don't want to rush into phase 3. We're not going to rush to grow the numbers until we are very sure that we've got something that's really slick, really reliable, and we're meeting a clear, demonstrable demand consistently. And that's the next phase that we call that process is called human-centered design. So it's not focused on, this is my app, this is what I want, and I'm going to keep trying to make you agree with what I want. This is what we've built. This is our first stab at it, but we're going to keep iterating until it serves your need properly. And that might require some. This is what makes this one very hard, because it requires a very different mindset to the phase 1. Phase 1 is like, we can do everything, and the impossible is possible, and the phase 2 is really, really being pragmatic or very self-critical and being very open to killing your darlings, as the saying goes, and saying, this is not working, or there's some fundamental issue. I mean, I don't think this will be the case at this stage, but if the feedback was from our market that we need to make some fundamental changes, that would mean that 80% of the code we built has to be thrown away and we have to start again. Well, that's what we're being told. We've got far enough to think that's highly unlikely, but because most of the feedback, like some of the big pieces of feedback was, how can we make it easier to set up federations? So that's a really good sign, because lots of people said there's only going to be a demand for like 3 federations and it's going to be very centralized. Well, like I'll put a very large percentage. I don't want to give it. These are a very large percentage of our queries so far have been, how can I set my own federation up? So even based on those queries, there's not going to be free. I can put it that way.
Super quick question on that, I guess. Is it the FediMint software? Is it on, for example, this Node in a box solutions, the Umbrel Start 9s, etc.?
Well, that's part of the feedback that we're getting. For example, it's like, can we set it up? Can you integrate with Umbrel? Can you integrate with Start 9? Can you integrate with Raspberry Blitz? Can you make it simpler to set up? So I think a lot of that's done by the FediMint team, because remember, FediMint is this open source project versus a different open source project. Well, we're not open source yet, we're source available, but at some point in the future, we'll be 2 different open source projects. However, we are using them as the bedrock, because if you want to custody significant amounts of value, we know that you want to go multi-sig. Multi-sig for significant amounts of value is the best standard. So So and also you want privacy. So then privacy and multi-sig, that's FediMint basically. But on the Fedi side, we can do a lot as well. So we can provide, even though it's open source software, we can take it and provide, again, it will be open source, but tools to help you build it really easily, or put efforts to integrate with people like Umbrel and Start9. We've already had an integration with an organization called Clover, which we've been working on, and you're going to see more on that. But from our point of view, that's a lot of where the work is. Also, you want to connect these to the internet, to the Lightning Network, sorry. And connected to the Lightning Network and maintaining a reliable connection is not easy. It can be complicated for people, especially managing liquidity. And now again, over time it can get easier, but right now it's not easy. There are organizations like Breeze and others who make that easy. And you just saw an announcement from Eric where they've already started showing connectivity and support for LDK, which is this cross LSP standard. So again, we at Fedi can provide tools for FediMint or people who are using FediMint, whether it's with Fedi or someone else, that make it really easy. And again, our aim is one click and you have a connection. You can set up your own Lightning node that's set up in a relatively good way, so it'll be relatively reliable, but you don't have to manage it yourself. Or you can connect to one of these LSPs, and for a fee, they'll just handle all the Lightning management, but you're still in a trust minimized way. So but given all the feedback we're getting, it's not, this is completely wrong, you need to go back to the drawing board. It's all, okay, I get it, but you need to go further. You need to integrate with more. You need to make it easier. So that's a good sign that we're on the right track.
Yeah. So what about this date when you go open source? Is that public or when you have to go open source? So it might be then or earlier.
It's memorialized in the business source license. In fact, we memorialized it. We actually have this memo memorializing when it happened. When we launched Fedi, we did this thing on the Bitcoin block. You can see it. We were established on a certain block, and we said Fedi is here. When we quietly on May the 4th, we also put something that said Fedi : and it was a hash. That hash is the hash of a memo, and the memo, which is on our Fedi's been open source. You can see the link and you can verify it. Showed that on May the 4th, the code became business source license, and by January the 3rd, 2026 or earlier, we must go open source. And if we were to shut down or to stop development, we would instantly go open source. And we put it in block. I tried to find a cool block. So it was block 8/4/2069. It was the block. It was a cool block as well.
All right.
So it's there, and that's the date. We cannot go open source later than that, and we may very well go open source a lot earlier than that.
Hey, Obi, I think we could keep on grilling you on this and that little detail, but this has been really enlightening. Fantastic to see how far this has come, even since our last conversation back in October. And yeah, just looking forward to everything you guys are doing. And I guess just as a last thing, people can now grab the Fedi app, and public federations are available to start to try
federations,
this.
And you can set up your own federation. And we are going to be working. There's a lot. I don't like to talk too much about what's coming in future, because we just work on everything in order of customer demand. So if customer demand comes in, that changes the order. But we're working really hard to make it. It's already easy if you're quite technical, but we're going to make it easier and easier to set up a federation. So keep looking out, because that's a very common request, to set up a federation yourself. And we want to see what people do with it. Create Fedi mods, create federations, use it, give us feedback, and we will continue to work on making an incredible open source interface portal to this freedom technology world.
Absolutely fantastic. We'll need to keep on having these conversations regularly, get updates, because always fantastic to hear about this, and good luck moving forward. And I think we'll be trying some Fedi stuff in our futures here. Lots of cool things have come out of Nostr, Riga, and Baltic Honeybadger, but Fedi is
exciting to see that. Yeah, it's a really exciting time.
And anywhere else you want to direct our listeners and viewers?
So for Fedi, that's probably the best place, because that's a jumping off ground for everything else, and that's Fedi, Fedi.xyz.
Fantastic.
Yep. One of the cooler things that came out of Nostr, Riga and Honeybadger was,
One
of course,
divided by Cloud World.
Yes, The Inverse of Clown World, our new book, and we want to give you one. So, and if you're not given one during this weekend, you'll find it on bitcoininfinitystore.com. So,
thank you very much.
And we need to sign it for you.
Yeah, we'll do that offline. But Obi, thank you again, and this has been the Bitcoin Infinity Show. Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.